fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Friday night doubleheader once again here on SimSpeed Esports. Tonight, once again, going to be broadcasting for you the VRS GT Sprint Series alongside the NASCAR C Fixed. First one coming to you live from Interlagos in Sao Paulo, Brazil, for one of the greatest tracks in the world. Now be making home to the GT3 spec machineries. So we are looking forward to a fantastic race here. Qualifying underway at the moment. Once again, joining me will be Cameron Dance, and behind the cameras again tonight will be Scott Fountain. Cam, Interlagos, it's a fantastic racetrack. We're looking forward to some fantastic racing once again.
Yeah, we certainly are. It's going to be a really, really good night of racing. Like saw at Donington last week, a very technical circuit, that one, but it put on a reasonably good show. So expecting just as good, if not better racing here at Interlagos today. And it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, and so as I said, qualifying is underway at the moment. Looks like it's going to be sort of looking at the BOP prior to coming on air, having a bit of a chat about it, but it looks like it is going to be the Audis, the McLarens, and the Ferraris are probably going to be looking at using their... Basically, we'll have the advantage tonight. So wait for times to start rolling in at the moment. Everyone seems to be just starting their laps right now. It's not a few people who are sort of halfway around their first flies. You can see on screen at the moment. John Piesnik, obviously well known for all the Aussie GT3 races in the McLaren tonight. Beautiful gear, bit of kit, and it's awesome to actually see it back usable. I know there's been a while now that the GT3, the McLaren hasn't been favourable, but obviously with the introduction of the new tyre model, it's actually allowed the McLaren to be once again a bit more competitive. So very nice to see. As you can see, John coming out of the final corner. Looks like he's finishing his first lap at the moment. Any interesting parts around this track? It is quite, like I said, it is a very high speed sort of track, but it is very technical at the same time, isn't it, Cam?
Yeah, it certainly is. There's a lot of various different corners that sort of make it a complete track, I guess you could say, with obviously a few hairpins and a few tight sections in a lot of fast and flowing sections as well. So it's there's no one or the other more or less to suit one kind of car or try and sort of have to work towards one kind of corner as well. You've kind of got to try and work the car to be able to work with both kinds of corners. Obviously the tight and twisty section of the infield and then the fast flowing sections of the first and final sector. So it's a real balancing act, obviously, in the setup department and also between what you want to drive in terms of car. Obviously the balance of performance probably more suiting the likes of the McLaren, Ferrari and Audi at the moment, but this track obviously really starting to show that any driver can put any car up the top.
Absolutely, and I was saying the Ferrari, it's really good. Like I said that it's And that's, I think, the brilliant thing about the GT3 racing is that every time you go to a different track, every car is going to have its own sort of strength. And I know that the BOP is sort of talked often a lot. It's a very contentious topic, especially on the forums at times. But that's just the way that this style of racing is. Not every track is going to suit every car, so it's always good to see a bit of a mix-up. And today, we're going to see that again. The last couple of rounds, the McLaren probably hasn't been as strong. Here's probably going to be a track where it will sort of suit, and as well as the Audi. Like I said, as you're mentioning, it's got the fast-flowing sections of the tight, twisty bits. Audi seems to sort of like that sort of thing. It's got a lot more straight line speed than it has sort of in the past. So, like I said, it gives it a good chance of having a good result here.
It certainly does, and the Audi seems to be the more favourable car between a lot of drivers. I know in the past it was one of the more difficult ones. Same with the McLaren; it was reasonably quick in the hands of a decent driver, but it was just so hard to drive, and you just had to sort of fight it almost every single lap. So now that now they're probably about even in terms of performance and more or less able to be driven a bit easily, it's really brought them out and really starting to show that they're actually quite good cars.
Yeah, they definitely are. I know I've had my issues with the famous Audi death slide. It weren't necessarily my favourite car. They were fun to drive, but it just, like I said, they're just quite difficult things to drive quick. Like, you could drive them, but to get the maximum out of them was quite difficult to do. But yeah, a lot nicer now than previous. So as you can see, times are rolling at the moment. You can see on top of the leaderboard at the moment, Evan M. Marin on pole with a 31.7. And there's actually quite a tight spread behind as well. You've actually got Dave G. Owen and John Peasnick, and actually behind as well, Richard Gafanchu sitting on a 31.8. So there's less than, it's about, just having a quick look there, but 0.06 of a second separating that group at the moment. So for quite a big track, the times are incredibly close, especially up front at the moment.
They certainly are. There's not even half a second separating that top 10, pretty much. It's really, really close. And like you said, that top five or so separated by just over 2/10 of a second. So it's incredibly close. And it's a nice mix of cars as well. You've obviously got McLarens in there, you've got an Audi, and you've even got Ferrari in there as well. So there's no obvious preferences to which car is obviously the quicker one. And currently just seeing Vlad Himuchev go to P2 as well. So another Audi puts itself inside that top three and currently at the top of McLaren. So there's clearly a bit of favoritism to the mid-engines at the moment.
Yeah, mid-engines, definitely. Mid-engine master race, as some people would say. But yep, that'll be it. That'll be qualifying said and done. We'll have a quick flick through the starting grid for you. So Evan M. Marion will start on pole position. Vlad Mischief will start on the front row in second. Dave G. Owen will come in at third. John Peasnick coming in fourth place. Richard Gafanchu in fifth. Nick Schulte Wasserman will come in sixth. Matthias Narciso will come in seventh. Sergey Haras will come in 8th place. Kevin Volk in 9th. Rounding out the top 10 will be Karim Havas.
Side the top 10 on row 6, Giuseppe Gallo and Andrei Efimenko on row 6. Row 7 will be to Andy T and Marco Zanga, followed by Sergio Roncero and Jan Nosek on 15th and 16th. 17th and 18th will go to Arthur Nauzi and Tony Nyan, followed by Kevin Wilkeet and Martin Zerveld, rounding out the top 20.
Yes, and a very big grid tonight, 29 out there. So Martin Zerveld will hold the... Sorry. 21st might be nice if I start there. Ateo Kangas will start in 21st. Pierre Abuzi will start in 22nd. Felipe Shines will start in 23rd. Slaven Prisina down in 24th. So I'm not sure if I'd be too happy starting down there. 25th will be Vincent Martin. Francesco Palma will start in 26th. Cana Basol will start in 27th. 28th Julian Dendine 28th, and Pedro Jose Rodriguez will be starting in the 29th. Let's have a quick look at the weather as we start to roll around for the formation lap as everyone makes their way. So it's a bit of a mostly cloudy, 26 degrees. So track temp will be around 32 degrees, which will be pretty good for a lot of them. Obviously, the higher the track temps, the more difficult the cars sort of become to handle. So 32 degrees seems to be a pretty decent track temp for them. And wind direction 10 kilometers to the northeast. We can see it's moving around a bit right now. That'll make things a bit interesting. And estimated race distance will be 27 laps. So as everyone makes their way around, what should we look out for, Cam? Who's going to be the one to look for this one?
Well, there's no denying that you can't go past the likes of John Peasnick or Richard Gafenku or Evan Marian. The likes of those top five really have shown some very good pace in qualifying and separate by not a lot of time. So it's really just going to be all about the strengths and the weaknesses of each car and what's going to end up coming out on top, really. Obviously, there's going to be a pit stop as well to take on some fuel to get home to the end due to the fuel restriction that we've got in place today. But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens here and what ends up happening in terms of whether we get an undercut situation. Obviously, this track not really all that easy to pass on the infield. You can get a draft and pass into turn one reasonably easy and through the first sector, but the rest of the time it's very tight and twisty and very difficult to make a move without sort of throwing it in there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And away goes the leader. Evan gets the jump on the field, and we are green. A bit of a hustle in the midfield. Everyone trying to find a bit of space as they head into turn one. Evan will get a perfect run. They're three wide into turn one. There's a bit of contact with John Peasnick. He's gone wide, but he's going to hold on to it, but he's going to shuffle well through the pack, and now there's more contact. Richard Gafanku seems to have gone into the wall as everyone makes their way around turn two. It looks fairly clean for everyone else. Richard, no, there's one car. There's two gone. One's on his roof. Didn't quite catch who that was, but there was two gone. Like a Ferrari, I think looks like Giuseppe Gallo was involved in that one as well. Not quite sure what's happened there, but ended up with one car on the roof. But up the front, everyone's still going. Evan seems to have just cleared this field incredibly well. Then there's more battles going in the battle for the podium as well. Weisserman and Owen having a battle for position as they start heading in the tight technical section. John Peasnick just behind as well, so he hasn't lost too much out of that. He'll be a little bit disappointed to be a bit further back, but still has a chance to fight. You can see top 9 positions at the moment. Very close together at them right now as we head a bit further back through the pack. Everyone seems to have sorted themselves out. There's a few battle for position happening at the moment, but everyone seems to have sort of sorted themselves out quite well. Single file running, we can see Richard Gafanku again in the background. You can see him just getting a bit sideways. So he's not having a good run at the moment. The contact may be playing havoc with him at the moment, but we are about to cross the line. Well, one lap down, Evan with a solid 1.4 second lead straight out the gate. He's been taking advantage. We can see a spinner on the front straight as well. Have a quick look to see what's happened there. Oh, just trying to find out who that actually is, but see what we can find out. But a very exciting first lap already.
Been a very busy first lap and not quite sure who that spinner on the front straight was either. Just going to try and go back and have a look. Looks like it was Andrei Efemenko. He's actually lost it on his own as well, just ending up losing the rear end and putting it into the wall, unfortunately. So his race will be done, and it was a heavy hit with the wall as well, especially that concrete. So I'd say that front end's not doing it too bad, but looking like it was the driver of, I do believe, Kerem Haviz, who was involved with that incident, ended up on his roof after contact with the car of Gallo earlier on lap one. So really unfortunate there for him, but it's been a busy first lap. And like you said, Evan has just really checked out at the front of the field. He got a really good launch off the start and just has decided to pull away.
Yeah, he's just very, very clinical way to start the race. Just kept his head down and just went for it. You can see Vlad Kimikev actually had a bit of a moment as they came onto the front straight. So a little bit of time being lost to Evan at the moment. So we can see them come across the start-finish line. That gap seems to have stabilised a bit there. Evan didn't manage to punch out any more of a gap that last time around. You can see, and we can look at John Peasnick as well, sitting in a little bit of a battle at the moment for fourth place. Dave Owen trying to defend that position as they head down the first of the long straights. Looking for the braking zone. John has a bit of a look, but decides not to have a bit of a go there. You can see they are heading out through turn 4-5, heading up a hill. Then this is a bit of an uphill section. You break into a bit of an uphill. Very important to hold that line as close as you possibly can. You don't want to run out wide. You can cost yourself a lot of time. See this pack nice and tight together at the moment. Let's see. A bit further back we can see there's also another battle going on as well. This is for just inside the top 10. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th in a bit of a battle. Have a look here. Sergio Ranchero is leading in 9th place at the moment. Marco Zanga looks to be wanting to have a bit of a go, try and get himself an extra spot.
Actually, quite a good little battle pack going on just in that side, that top 5, and then you've got that secondary one that's just inside the top 10 as well. So it's really going on for those minor positions at the moment. Like you said, Zanga trying to get away onto the back of Roncero, who seems to be doing reasonably well, and that's contact between T and Zanga's going to be off and onto the escape road. So doesn't look like there might have been any damage there, and he looks like he's just managed to get away with that one very luckily, but he's dropped all the way down to outside the top 15 as well. So grab a Motum simulation replay of that one as they head into turn 1.
Yeah, just caught the end of that, as you were saying. Yeah, it looks like it's just a bit of contact in the left rear quarter. It was not a lot of contact. It was just sort of fairly light, but obviously it's a hard braking zone. It's actually still quite a fast corner, so a little bit of contact is enough to do it. You can see on replay, and there's a little bit of a touch. Like I said, not big hit, but enough just to unsettle him. Thankfully, didn't slide any further than that, didn't make contact with any of the walls or anything, was able to get it back going again, continue on. Doesn't look like there'll be much damage at all, but back up the front we can see this battle again for the podium spot is still happening. Nice, the battle behind here as well, you can see you got Matthias, Sergei Haras and Kevin Volk as well. They're sort of just sitting at the moment. Now this is probably a good spot for them to probably wait and see what happens. Obviously being such a track with quite a few straights, so there's the throttle position's pretty much wide open for most of it. It's a good opportunity if you can get yourself behind someone, you can save yourself a little bit of fuel. As Cam has alluded to at the start of this one, there is going to be a fuel stop. You won't need to take tyres. Tyres will last for the entire race, but you've got to think about that fuel strategy. Any chance, opportunity you can take to undercut the people that are around you. You know, having to take on less fuel to get you to the end of the race. That's something that's definitely worth thinking of, whether or not you can play that strategy card and move you up a few more spots. And this battle just seems very close at the moment. So moving a bit up front, you can sort of see Evan has started to check out again, so that lead looks to be fairly well settled. But the battle between second and third, Vlad Kimchev as well as Nick Wasserman, looking like that will develop into a bit of a battle at the moment. Nick's been able to bridge the gap. Have a look back through the field as well. We can see Slaven, who started a bit further down the pack, has done a fantastic job so far. He's actually moved himself back up to 16th place. Started 24th, just trying to get an idea of how many spots he's gained.
8 places, I believe that would be. My math is correct, Mez. So yeah, he's done quite well to gain a few places here, and it's all over the back end of Kevin Wilkett as well, and Marco Zanga has just got past Wilkett as well, I believe. Yes, he has. So that's another position gain for Zangu's trying to recover after that contact early on. But that battle pack at the front of the field, just inside that top 5, is still really all on. And then, like you said, Wizerman and also Kimichev really battling it out for the final spot on the podium at the moment. Just not quite got the pace to get on by at the moment, does Wizerman, but he's quick at that last time by about 2/10. So if he can find a way past, he should be able to start pulling away and try and pull in the car of Marion.
Also very interesting that last lap around, John Peasnick was actually the fastest one on track for that lap around. You can see he's trying to get onto the back of Dave Owen at the moment, who sort of pushed a little bit of a gap out. Quite sure if there was anything that happened that made that gap open up a little bit, but yeah, John slowly working his way up to them at the moment. So looking for an opportunity. Definitely got the pace at the moment. Maybe letting the car come to him. Maybe a little bit of a setup that looks after its tyres a little bit more, so it's probably not exactly quick out the gate. But you do know with John, he's very good with his setups. He's a bit of a wizard. He can sort of make, very well known for making cars that generally aren't that all competitive, quite competitive. I remember when we used to run the Sprint Series Australasia, be the only one rocking up in the Ford GT when the GT3 spec of it, and somehow would get that thing in the top 5 every round. And well, take my hat off to him, because there was not many other people that could do that.
There certainly wasn't, and obviously was not the easiest car on the service to drive. Everybody who's tried it has obviously turned their nose up at it or ended up dying a very painful death from trying to drive the thing. So it's not one of the preferred cars at all, but somehow in some way John just manages to make these oddball cars work in a very spectacular way, like we're seeing here today in the McLaren. And the McLaren, really one of those cars that does tend to suit drivers who are very smooth but also very aggressive as well. So seems to suit John quite nicely, running in the top 5 at the moment as he's showing, and not too far off the back of David Owen as well. So John trying everything he possibly can to try and find a way past Dave, but just can't quite seem to get it done at the moment.
And it's not much of an option there. Maybe just wait it out and see how he goes. But you can see a bit further in the back of the pack a bit. There's a bit of a Ferrari battle going on. 16th, 17th. So having a bit of a look at Tony Nugent as well. He's got himself at the end of this little pack. This little pack that was fighting for the spot just inside the top 10. He's got himself onto the back right now. He's all over the back of Andy T. So McLaren versus Ferrari in this one. Is it? No, it's an Audi. Sorry, apologies. My camera was too far away. So an Audi versus Ferrari battle. So you can see them coming onto the final corner. It's another one that's a very technical corner. Even though you come right out wide, it's very easy to drop a wheel off on the grass. Because it's sort of off-cambered on the when you try to run out to the rubber strip, it's a bit off-cambered, so it can sometimes catch you out. Andy not really able to use the pace of the Audi at the moment. You can see the battle back up front again is still going on. You can see Owen, Peasnick, and Nachiso going forward. You can see, and a little bit wide for Owen. Didn't quite get it turned in as well as he would have liked. That's allowed Peasnick to have actually a bit of a look up the inside. He's just got the nose there. Is he going to be able to squeeze it? He's got him wide, and he's going to actually get that job done. Very nicely done. He managed to get the car, and also Matthias will actually have a look as well. They're going to go side by side as they come around the middle section. Dave will manage to get it clear, but again, Matthias will have another look. Can't quite get the nose there as they head down into this final corner. Looks like that has settled that little battle out. It's also given John a little bit of an opportunity to break free, so he's got the job done. He'll find himself up into 4th place, so up the road he'll have Nick and Vlad, who'll obviously for 2nd and 3rd. He's got the pace at the moment, so can he bridge that gap and get across to the battle for the podium?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what John can do here. With a bit of clean air, he should be able to put him some very good laps, but just behind Matthias, putting it up the inside of Dave Owen, not quite going to get it done, and Dave's going to just barely hold on, but Matthias really trying to find a way on by. He's looking left, right, and centre. Tried to throw it up the inside a few times on that previous lap, but couldn't get it done. And now Owen's going to go defensive down towards turn at number 4 now, as Matthias is going to have to go round the outside again, and not quite going to be able to get it done once again, but goes right out to the edge of the circuit to try and get a run towards the infield section. Owen going defensive to try and hold off the Ferrari, but he's going to only just hold on, and Cisco going to almost run into the back of Owen, but again, still no move done.
You can see in the background, you can see Sergey and Kevin will be looking at this and thinking, this is good for us. This gives us an opportunity, maybe make a spot out of this. If they get together, we're going to make a couple of spots out of it. So definitely battling quite hard. Matthias definitely has the pace at the moment. He wants to get past that Audi. Obviously, at the moment, he can get the nose there, but Dave is doing a fantastic job. He's on the non-preferred line. It's a lot harder to hold a position when you're on the outside, but he seems to be able to do it quite well at the moment as they run onto the front straight. Legs of that Ferrari will be coming into effect now. Can he get close enough? You can see he's raging. He is getting up, and Dave will go defensive. Matthias will go to the outside as they head into turn 1. You can do it around the outside. You can, when it switches back on itself, and he's going to hold it around the outside as they switch back. Boom, Matthias will get it done. He gets it. He is up into 5th place, but Dave's not going to be finished with now. He's going to have a really good run out of the corner. Can he get the run down that straight into the next corner? Doesn't look like he will. He will hold position. Dave will drop back to 6th place. So at the moment, seems to be falling backwards. Now he's got Sergey Harras, who will be having a look as well. This is not going to be over for him. He's going to have 2 more cars behind him who are probably going to be itching to make their way forward. Sergey having a little bit of a look. Not quite close enough at the moment. Dave, we can still, Dave is still quite close to the rear of Matthias at the moment. So still an opportunity to get that spot back if we can get the job done. But Sergey will be looking at maximizing the exit as they come down into the left-hander onto the front straight. He'll be trying to get good of a run as he can. He hasn't quite actually got out of the second sort of hairpin as good. There's a bit of a gap there, so he's probably not going to have a real opportunity. But Dave Owen is right up behind Matthias at the moment. Has the Audi got the legs to be able to get a move done as they head up into turn 1? Doesn't look like it. Holding station for now. So what can Matthias do? Can he follow John Piesnick and try and catch up to the podium positions at the moment?
Interesting to see if Narcisco can try and make his way up to the back of John Piesnick to try and challenge for these final 2 podium positions, which that battle is still going on between those 2, and Wisman's actually managed to get on by the looks of Kimichev. So that move has finally happened between those 2. The swap positions, but now Piesnick's still on the hunt at the moment. He's matching the lap times of the 2 of them, so pace is clearly there for Piesnick, and slightly slower that last time by was Narciso for that position, but nevertheless, Dave Owen really seems to be struggling at the moment, and nobody else behind for just outside that top 10 positions. That battle pack's still going on, and some of them have actually got some really decent pace as well.
Yeah, definitely having a look at that too. You can sort of see it actually looks like there was a swap for position there. It does look like Jan Nosek was able to get by into turn 1 onto Sergio Ranchero. You can see back behind Arthur Nazi is definitely hunting at the moment. And we've got 2 more cars. Andy T, Tony Nugent as well. We're looking for an opportunity to make themselves up a few more spots. Top 10 position is there waiting for them. Everyone loves to be able to finish inside the top 10. See, a bit further down the back, Richard Gafenku, who obviously earlier in the race was involved in a little bit of an unfortunate contact, so he's had to fight his way through the field. You can see him on the back of Slaven Priscina at the moment. So we'll be looking for an opportunity to go back up the front again. Looks like Andy T was having a go at Arthur Nazi, but wasn't able to get the job done. they'll hold station at the moment. But yeah, you're right. There's a little battle pack at the moment. There's definitely a lot to fight for in here. Like I said, that final spot inside the top 10, everyone wants it.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's a very hotly contested battle pack. Is that one just outside the top 10? But this top 5 battle pack as well still going on. Narciso hasn't really broken away from this pack at all at the moment. He's sort of matching the pace of Dave Owen as well, and the rest that are in that little group. Volt was slightly slower that last time by, but Peasnick was actually slower than all that group as well by about 4/10 that last time by. So possible mistake there from Peasnick to have dropped a little bit of time, but still matching those of in front of him.
Yeah, still putting out some decent times. But yeah, you can see Sergey Harass was actually in that little battle pack. He was one of the fastest ones out of that one. So you can still see him all over the back of Dave Owen at the moment. Looking for an opportunity to get past. That Ferrari definitely does have a bit of straight line speed. After watching it now into turn 1, he's managed to gain a couple of car lengths in that draft. So Ferrari definitely has a lot more straight line pace than what the Audi is at the moment. So Audi may be holding onto its rear tyres a little bit better though. Obviously have to depend on how their setups are working for them. Some generally try to go for setups that are not probably as quick, but they look after the tyres a little bit more. Does make them a little bit susceptible, especially sort of in the midpoint of the race when people are trying to sort of move their way forward. But obviously later on, the tyres sort of come back to them. Generally sort of speaking, with a lot of the way the tyre model this works, the mid stint is typically the hardest one for you. Obviously the way the tyre works, just sort of as the fuel load's coming off and the tyres are starting to wear more, that mid stint just becomes the pace sort of drops off and the car just becomes a little bit more difficult to handle. Obviously, we've all experienced that a fair bit, haven't we, Cam?
Yeah, we certainly all have at some point in our iRacing career where the tyres just sort of drop off themselves and you end up sort of driving on what seems to be a bit like marshmallows, but nevertheless, it does make it a bit of a challenge and does make tyre conservation that a little bit more important. Obviously, when we were on the likes of V6 and that, it was just pure qualifying pace straight out the gate from lap 1 all the way to the end without any sort of care for your tyres at all and just more or less managing the temps in them, whereas now it's sort of a balancing act between managing the temps and managing the tyre wear as well, and obviously setups depending a lot more on making sure you don't wear your tyres out too much. Obviously running more camber and toe and that sort of stuff is obviously going to wear them out a lot quicker due to the fact that they're under a lot more strain and load. But yeah, it's interesting to see the differences between different cars and seeing where their weaknesses and strengths are in the tyre department. Like you said, the Audi probably holds on to its tyres a bit more over the course of a stint, whereas the Ferrari's probably going to struggle a little bit more. And then you've got like the BMW and the Merc, which are front engine and are probably going to struggle on their fronts later in the stint. So they've all got their strengths and weaknesses, and it just really does spice up the racing a lot.
Yeah, absolutely does. And that's the thing that's probably the biggest change for these cars is that shift in the tyre model, the shift in that way of thinking, where now the tyres are a lot more susceptible to the tyre degradation. So having a bit of a look back down the field, Andy T looks as though he's gone off the track. He has definitely inside of fast right-hander. I'll have a bit of a look at the modem simulation replay, see what's going on. So he was at the back of this little battle pack that was happening just outside the top 10. You can see he's run.
Just off the rear.
Having a bit of a look. And yeah, just lost the rear end completely. Grabbed the inside curb and it looks like that was just enough. It's a bit of a slow spin there. Just, yeah, grabbed a bit of the inside curb and around it went. So bit of an odd one there, maybe pushing a little bit too hard into the corner. I know the Ferrari, the current version of the Ferrari, it can be a little bit sort of taily for you. Obviously, being a rear-engine car, it's a bit of weight moving around. So, fortunately, that one has caught him out. He'll drop down the field a little bit. Looks to have dropped, trying to catch. He's at the moment, looks like he's dropped all the way down. About 14th place, so I think he only lost a spot or two out of that one by the looks. But actually, so didn't lose too much time, but now he's got Richard Gafenku sitting right behind him at the moment. Slaven Priscina was also watching. We can see Richard was catching him earlier in the race. He's now dropped back a spot into 16th place. So seems where Slaven is holding the pace at the moment. See, battle up the front still happening here. We can see Arthur Nazi and Sergio Ranchero still battling at the moment for that spot inside the top 10. Good to see the Mercedes GT3 as well featuring inside the top 10. Like I was saying, a car that sort of does love to use its front tires, and this sort of track doesn't really sort of suit it that well. Obviously, very high speed, and you want to be able to rotate the car very quickly through the corner, and obviously having a big V8 in the front of it makes it a bit difficult.
Yeah, it certainly does, as you end up with a bit of understeer, especially if you're not kind to those front tires later on the race, and where you're just going to end up with buckets of understeer, like you're trying to drive a bit of a boat, unfortunately. So, yeah, it is one of those things about the Merc. While it is quite nice to drive and very stable, it does take a little bit of a finesse and smooth driving style to look after your tires and make sure you don't overheat the tires in any sort of way from the ABS and the large dinner plate brakes that it's got on the AMG. But only about 3 Mercedes in this race, so it's clearly not the most favorable car around this sort of track with that tight infield section, like you said. But yeah, really isn't doing too bad is Arthur Nazi, who's sitting inside that top 10 quite nicely.
Yeah, he is, and as we saw just earlier, Richard Gafenku keeping his charge through the field at the moment, putting himself up another spot, getting past Andy T, who made a little mistake earlier, and he's run very wide in that corner as well. So Andy not having a good time out there at the moment. Next target will be Marco Zenga for Richard as he tries to make his way back through the field. So it looks like he'll find himself, should be able to get himself close to the top 10. The battle for the top 10 is not far up the road, and the pace he's setting at the moment is really, really good. So we'll be looking for a chance to battle for that top 10 spot. And these two, Nick Wasserman and Vlad Kaminchev, have not separated themselves at all. They have been locked nose to tail for this entire race. They've swapped positions, but that's about it. And as well with this one, Arthur Nazi and Sergio Ranchero, they have not separated themselves from each other this whole race. And it looks like that'll continue in this one. So there's a few spots out there, just tiny little battle groups at the moment. So it's going to be just under 15 minutes left in this race. Pit stops will be happening, but how is this going to play out? How do you play this strategy now? You know, you're in a little bit of battle with someone at the moment. You want to get the advantage over the top. Do you go the undercut? Do you go the overcut? What's the plan going to be for some of these drivers?
Well, it's really interesting. If you're someone like Kimmich, who's kind of stuck sitting behind the likes of Wisman in that battle for P2, you probably want to put it now to try and get a bit of an undercut. Although that said, if Kimmich is actually fuel saving, it's probably not a bad idea to sort of pit when Wisman does. Obviously, they've got quite a nice gap back to the rest of the field, but yeah, you don't want to be being held up too much. Whereas if you're someone who's buried a little bit down the field, the likes of maybe Gafenku or T or Pristina, you maybe want to do an undercut. So we've already got one person in the pit lane, and Vinicius and Heroes in the pits.
Yeah, so we mentioned that the window was opening, and now it has. Everyone starting to make their plays, and there was two drivers that are in 2 battle packs at the moment, so they're looking to make that opportunity, try and see if that undercut will work. But the battle is still continuing for second place at the moment. Both have stayed out. As you can see, Kaminkev will be looking to see if he has an opportunity to get past. Probably not at this point. The opportunity, oh, very, very deep. A bit of a lockup as well. See, Vlad came in very hot into that corner. Barely was able to pull it up. It's going to cost him a little bit of time. Put a bit of heat into those tires you probably don't want to have. Back down the back, Richard Gafenko in a battle at the moment. So we can see just coming out of the pits in front, Sergei Haras. But that's going to create a little bit of a 3-car battle pack at the moment. You can see they're fiercely battling. Sergey will not want to let this position go because effectively he is in front of these drivers at the moment. If he falls behind, that's going to cost him more time, especially considering the battle that he's in at the moment. So he'll be trying to maintain this position. Richard be obviously wanting to get through. He's got Andy T sitting behind as well, looking for an opportunity to make a way past. So it's plenty to play for in this little battle pack, even though they aren't really racing each other at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot to play from. Gafinko's slightly quicker as well than the likes of VRS, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens. And whether Gafinko decides to come down to pit lane, also had Owen and Narciso also come down to into the lane, and Zanga's decided to blink as well as Gafinko. So there we have it. Brusina's also coming in and Gallo as well. So everybody's starting to get their pit stop out of the way to try and have a bit of an undercut strategy, or more or less get their fuel in and out and get the job done, as Narciso's just come out behind Harass.
That would be a change of position, absolutely. And then we've got Andy T as well, who pitted a little bit earlier. Actually, no, sorry, Andy T hasn't pitted. I'll double check. No, hasn't pitted, so he won't be in this battle at the moment. You can see he's actually set up by Dave Owen as well. Dave Owen, I believe, has pitted, yes. So actually, Dave Owen's actually dropped a fair way back. He was actually in front of this battle pack a bit earlier, I believe.
Yeah, he's just lost a bit of time as Dave Owen, unfortunately, in this little battle pack on with the way the pit stops have been. He's dropped quite a bit of time over the past few laps, but hasn't actually lost out any positions, more or less. He's just had Andy T get on by him, so that's really going to affect him too much, but he's not going to want to get held up for too long. But race leader Marion in at the pit lane, and Wisman as well in the pit. So first and third coming into the lane, but John Piesnik and second place Kimishev deciding to stay out for a little bit longer.
Yeah, obviously making the play for the overcut. So now we'll be having a look and waiting to see what times they can actually do. Will they get the advantage? They'll have a lighter fuel tank. So that means they can probably go that little bit quicker than those who have had just taken their stops. Obviously a lot of fuel adds a bit more weight. So you can see as they're coming out of the pit, you can see Kevin Volk making his way out the lane. Dave Owens will be in front. Sergey Harass and that group, and we can see back in front Nick Wasserman has made his way out of the lane, starting to circulate around the leader, obviously, who has pitted. So wait and see. Kimichev will be the one that we'll be looking closely at to see, will the overcut work? Will the extra lap help getting a bit of a gap, getting back in front? Because Nick Wasserman was in front at the time of the pit stop. So as they head down the front straight, will they blink for the lane? Yes, they will. Vlad will come into the lane for their pit stop.
Yeah, and Piesnik follows him in as well. So we'll see what the pit stop time is. Marian's just coming through the final corner now to come onto the front straight past his pit entry. So he has well and truly jumped those two. But Viziman coming just past the pit entry now. So we'll see where Kimishev comes out in relation. He's revving it up and he's just going to leave the lane. This is going to be very, very close. But I think Viziman's just going to have this one, and he does.
Yep, he'll come out just in front. So the overcut does not appear to have worked out well. He's actually going to have a fair bit of a gap there. That's a significant bit of time that Vlad has lost in that pit stop. So that overcut definitely not working the way that he would have liked. As you can see a bit further down the pack, the other close battle that we were looking at. Let's see a few of the other battle packs that we were sort of looking at. Arthur Nazi and Sergio Ranchero. That gap seems to have changed as well. They were a lot closer together prior to the pit stops, but now that gap has increased. Arthur Nazi with a bit of a gap now in that one.
Just also looking at Kimishev's pit stop time is actually slightly quicker than Viziman's pit stop as well. So it's kind of interesting that he's actually lost out there a little bit, but Pierre, obviously the overcut in his extra lap didn't quite work out to his advantage, probably didn't quite save enough fuel to try and take advantage, but nevertheless, it seems everybody sort of spread out from their various different pit stop strategies.
Yeah, he's very interesting. And having a look at pit stop times, John Peasnick does appear out of the top 5 at least to be the fastest pit stop, 7.7 stop time compared to those in front of him with a 9.2 and 8.7 and 8.6. So looks like John would have made a second out of that, but he still got a 5-second gap back to the battle group in front for the podium of Wasserman and Kimichev. So be interesting to see what can be done if John has the pace to be able to bridge that gap. There's only about just under 7 minutes after the race, so 5 seconds is quite a big gap to draw down in such a short amount of time. So I'm not sure if he'll actually be able to get there. It looked like he was once he got himself free, but don't think that's probably going to happen now. There's a 1 second gap between second and third. Can Kimichev get back onto the bumper of Wisserman, try and challenge for that second place?
Yeah, that is the big question, whether he's going to be able to use these last few laps to try and find a way on by. But just seeing there's also quite a nice battle going on for the position just outside the top 15 between Gallo and Persina. Those two have been going at it for the last lap or so pretty intensely. Gallo trying to find a way past, but just not quite able to do it in yet, as Persina slightly quicker in that McLaren in a straight line, so reasonably even in terms of straight line pace, but that Ferrari is going to be slightly more agile in the infield section.
Yeah, while that battle is also happening, there's a very close between Giuseppe having a look. He's going to go have a look around the outside now, trying a bit of a switchback. Slavin didn't get off the corner as well. See, holding very closely together as they head towards the final corner. You can see Giuseppe having the widest possible entry that they can. Try and straight line. He's actually got off that corner very, very well. He's quite close as they head onto the front straight. It's quite a long front straight, and this Ferrari does have some legs, but it's going against the McLaren, and the McLaren is well known for its straight line pace. Does not look like Giuseppe Gallo is able to actually make any inroad at all. Actually, it looked like Pristina pulled away on the front straight.
Yeah, well, Gallo's carrying a slight bit of damage to that front end of that Ferrari as well, so it's going to slow him down in a straight line, unfortunately. But Gallo's still going to give it everything he possibly can, try and get this position off Prusino, who seems to be just not quite able to match the pace of those ahead of him. And speaking of those ahead of him, Gafinko's starting to come under pressure from Zanga as well, not too far up the road.
Just noticed Giuseppe Gallo has spun that right behind Slavin as they come through the fourth corner. He's grabbed the inside curb and just put it sideways. Try and get a replay and have a look.
Yeah, he's done that all on his own as well. Just very odd. He was into the corner quite nicely, and the inside curb just unsettled him, unfortunately, and he's dropped a heap of time and even lost a position out of that as well to the car of Zeveld. So unfortunately, down to 18th place goes Gallo, but at the moment, Gafinku really in a hot battle with Zanga at the moment, just inside that top 15. Gafinku still trying to recover something. Isn't going to have too many laps left in this race to try and recover too many more positions. I think going to be about 3 laps left in this race, but that battle for second place at the moment between Vizeman and Chenkov really working hard now, as Kimichev is really trying everything he possibly can to get a move done here. Slightly quicker that last time by about 3 tenths compared to Vizeman, but nevertheless still a very tight battle as lap traffic starting to come into play now.
Yeah, lap traffic will start to have an effect. As you can see, 1 lap car in front, but he'll get out of the way very quickly. Also, another battle pack that's also emerged. Sergio Ricciero and Tony Nugent has also fired up as well. Them two have close up in that cycle as well. But the battle for the second step on the podium is been going on for most of this race now. Nick Wasserman was able to get past earlier on, but now it seems that Vlad Kimichev wants that spot back. He had it earlier and he wants it back now. So this battle will be going down to the wire. We'll be looking at less than 3 minutes as they come across the line. So we'll have a few more laps. Looks like we'll have 2 more laps in this race. So through turn 1, Vlad definitely has a bit more pace. So that the Audi definitely seems quicker. Definitely in the oops. As you can see, he definitely ran a bit wide actually, just noticing, out of 2. So is the tyre wear starting to play a factor now? Has that Audi used its front tyres a little bit too much? As they head up into the fast right-hand, a very tricky part of the track. Hug it very tight. Try and use as much as you can. He's definitely got the pace in the infield section at the moment, all over the back of him. But he's going to be able to do enough just to hold the spot for the moment. I think it's going to have to come in the last lap. He's got to really try to set up a spot here. Don't think the door's going to be open too easily, so they'll soon be on to the last lap. Question is, can Vlad make an opportunity? Can he get this job done and move back into second?
Yeah, he's trying everything he possibly can as Kimishev to try and find a way on by. He's reasonably close. He's going to have the draft down the front straight this time by from Vizeman, but Vizeman trying to break the draft from Kimishev down the front straight, weaving left and right, but Kimishev not going to be close enough to try and get a move done here into turn 1. He's going to break as late as he possibly can to get as close as he can, and he looks like he's got a pretty solid run through turns 1 and 2 and reasonably close in turn 3 here. He's going to possibly set up a move at turn 4 and get... Oh, and Vizeman running wide through turn 4, and now Wiseman's going to have to possibly go defensive here. Kimishev looks to the inside, goes late on the brakes, look up the inside and was going to possibly get this done, but Wiseman trying to hold it on the outside, running wide to use all the track, and unfortunately has lost the place out of that.
That was a fantastic move, but it's not over yet. Wiseman will go around the outside as they head to the sharp right-hand turn. This is the infill section. This is the technical part of the track. He's trying to keep his nose there, but he can't do it. He just ran way too wide. He couldn't get the rotation, but it's still not over. There's still an opportunity left. You can see Kimishev will go narrow, but this is going to allow Wiseman to get a run off the corner. Doesn't look like it. It looks like this might be done. One more corner to navigate for Vlad, and I think he might have done it. He might have just sealed second place as we head up the front. He's let it all the way, completely controlled the race. Evan Marion will take the win. A fantastic job. And as they come to the line, Vlad Kimishev will hold on to second. Third place will go to Dick Viseman. Done a fantastic battle through that pack for the entire race. The battle for second spot. As you can see, coming across the line, John Peastick will come home in fourth place as well. Top 5 will be rounded up by Sergio Harris. You can see a few more drivers making their way around on their final lap. Andy T coming out of the final corner. We can see this other little battle that was happening earlier. Zanga and Gafunku, that seems to have resolved itself. No change in position there. Obviously, Priscina was able to hold out a charge from Giuseppe Gallo. So they will finish up 15th and 16th. So Slaven will make his way up to 16th place, up 9 spots. Fantastic effort there. See a few more drivers making their way to the start-finish line. Also just noticed, actually, Tony Nugent has actually dropped back to 26th place. Something has happened there, not quite sure, but that was a hotly contested battle there with Sergio Ranchero, but obviously something has happened and has fallen out of that.
Went and had a look back really quick at that, and actually contact between Nguyen and the car of Sergio by the looks of it, unfortunately, in turn 3. So really unfortunate between those two, but nevertheless, very, very solid race overall and very close battles up the front, especially.
Yeah, qualifying set it up for what was going to be a tight race, and it certainly delivered. we'll get the final race results up onto the screen. Evan Marion will come home with the win, a 5-second lead. Very nicely done. Vlad Kimichev will come home in second place. Fantastic battle all race along with Nick Schulte Wasserman. John Piesnik will come home in fourth place. Sergi Harras will come home in fifth. Matthias Narciso will come home in sixth. Dave Owen will come home in seventh. Kevin Volk in eighth place. Jan Nosek will come home in ninth. And Arthur Nazi rounding out the top 10.
Sergio Roncero just outside the top 10 and 11th. Richard Gafinko in 12th. 13th to Marco Zanga, followed by Andy T in 14th. Running at the top 15, Slaven Persina starting in 24th. So very solid comeback from him. Seep Gallo in 16th, followed by Martin Zaveld in 17th. 18th to Kenar Bazol, and rounding out the top 20, Pierre Uberzi and Kevin Wilkett.
And as we head into 21st place, Julian Dandine will come home. 22nd will be Vincent Martin. Francesco Palma will come home in 23rd. 24th, Felipe shines. 25th will be Pedro Rodriguez. And then we start to get into our DNFs. Tony Nugent, I said, was hotly contesting a battle for the top 15, but that unfortunately has ended. Eto Vinakangas will come home, will be another DNF. Kiram Vanes, followed by Andrei Efimenko. All right. That will round out the first of our doubleheader. Next, we head to, I believe it's Martinsville, where we will be having the C-Class trucks fixed setup. Obviously, a staple for Friday night. So we'll be back very shortly for the NASCAR C-Fixed. So stay put. We'll be back very soon.
This is fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got with the outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.